fully opening up the financial sector of China would be to liberalise the capital account in the RMB. China has not done this, and in my opinion, it would be a very big mistake to do so. The economic fundamentals of the United States and China are the following. Savings, which is really the raw material of the finance industry, by which I mean not just savings by households, I mean savings by companies, savings by households, saving or non-saving by the government. It's simple. This is probably the single most important economic figure in the world. China, on the latest data, savings are $5.6 trillion. The US savings are $3.7 trillion. If this capital account were liberalised, it would have two consequences. First, there would be a huge outflow of capital from China. We could see this in Russia. When the Russian liberal capital account was liberalised, hundreds of billions of dollars left Russia. Secondly, it would have a destabilising effect on the world. Other people, for example, you take Martin Wolf, who's the chief economics commentator of the Financial Times, he's explained very clearly why he thinks that the full liberalisation of China's capital markets, that is the liberalisation of the capital account, will be very damaging not only to China, but it would be very damaging to the world, because you would have a huge flow of capital coming out of China into the rest of the world, which would have very destabilising effects on other financial markets. So what China is really doing is it is gradually opening up parts of its financial structure to foreign investment and foreign operations. This is fine. This makes more smooth transactions. It increases the number of players who are in the market, and that's fine. Remember those figures. 5.6 trillion in China, 3.7 trillion in the United States. There is only one financial superpower in the world now. That's China. If you read, for example, The Banker, which is the house journal of the world international banking system, they're completely obsessed by the rise of Chinese banks. They think that banks like ICBC, Bank of China, completely dominate the world. And they are absolutely correct about this, because that China has the greatest creation of capital in the world. The world's #1 capitalist country, which is the United States, now doesn't create as much capital as the world's #1 communist country, which is China. That's a paradox, but it's the real situation. International foreign firms are going to be absolutely fascinated and focused on wanting to participate in this. On the other hand, they face very tough competition, because the Chinese banks are very well established, very, very, very well capitalized. The Chinese government's policy is very skilled, so the foreign companies want to come in and they're going to face very tough competition. That's my estimate of the situation. Well, domestic companies will have to be able to compete even more. This will take some time. I mean, the biggest problem that Chinese domestic companies make is really in their foreign operations. I think in the domestic market in China, the Chinese companies know their market very well, but the modern financial industry is by its very nature international. The problem really on that is the management resources. If you look up the pattern when American companies internationalized after the Second World War, it took 20 or 30 years to create a real cadre of managers who were capable of running foreign operations, because of course it's much more difficult to run an operation in another country than it is to run it in your own country. When European firms started to internationalize, it took 20 to 30 years in order for them to be able to participate. The internationalization of China's companies is only really just starting. We could say it's only become really serious, let's say, in the last 10 years. So I think there is management weaknesses, which are obviously on the question of China, which is still a problem, which is that they don't yet have the trained management to do it. That I think is going to be their biggest problem for competition.